When my daughter Emerson turned a year old, I started looking into different swimming options for her so she could learn how to somewhat survive in the water. I didn't know what was available for a 1-year-old. And then I came across this really compelling video of a child that just walked out to a pool and, as I held my breath, fell in and then was able to resurface and float. And I wanted to learn more about that. Shortly after that, I had a friend from Texas sell me on it and tell me this is the best thing that their child has ever done. And so I started to look into it. It's called ISR. It stands for Infant Swimming Resource. It will teach your child how to survive if they should ever fall into a body of water on their own. This is Melissa Larson. You are one of the very few ISR instructors right now in the area that we are aware of. And we're just going to kind of jump right into it. So I know many of you may or may not have seen some viral videos of kids floating in the water that, to me, when I first saw them, seemed a little bit alarming, and you're wondering, oh my gosh, are these kids okay? What's going on here? And then come to find out they actually do have the skills to be able to survive and come out of the water. So that's sort of how I came upon ISR. I had a friend tell me about it. I'd seen these videos. It was just kind of like, just seemed like the right thing to do. And I got really excited when I found out what it involved and what it actually would mean for me and my daughter. So let's jump right into it. Melissa, tell us, what is ISR?
Sure. ISR is Infant Swimming Resource. It's a method of survival swim instruction for infants and young children as a layer of drowning prevention. It's developed on the principles of sensory motor learning, positive behavioral reinforcement. We kind of introduce the child to the water and teach them how to hold their breath, how to breathe on their back. When they're ambulatory and they can walk, we teach them how to swim a short distance, roll onto their backs, and then continue that way to the edge of the pool or the ladder. Or if there is no edge, if they fell off a dock, they have that float indefinitely. That's kind of our hallmark, that we want that child to know whether they fell in and fully clothed in their bathing suit, swim time or not swim time.
Which is amazing, by the way, fully clothed.
And a full diaper.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah.
That they have the confidence and the competence to find their air and stay there until help arrives if they need it.
Wow.
I found it on Long Island when my baby was 1, and I think within half of his session I decided I was going to be doing this with my life, and I quit my career as an occupational therapist, and I never looked back.
Dove right in, so to speak.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Tell us about that. How did you come across it? Because I know a lot of our viewers, again, this is the first time they're hearing about it.
The same way you found it was a viral video on my Facebook feed, and it was a little baby floating, just chilling on her back in a pool. And no one was around her except for the person filming, of course. And
sometimes we forget they're okay because there's someone behind the camera.
Correct. There's someone, their instructor's usually right next to them, making sure that obviously that they're safe, but it's something to see a baby just on their back. And I Googled it. There was one instructor on Long Island. She was teaching 40 minutes from my home, and I was working full time. And I said, I don't care, I'm gonna make this work. And I showed my husband, I Googled it, showed him the price, and he kind of didn't even bat an eyelash, and he said, let's do it, I don't care. Because what you're paying for is a session's worth of lessons. And we never looked back. It was worth every second. I took him to lessons every single day after I got home from work. Came home, bath, dinner, bed, repeat the next day. And it's a 5-day-a-week program, 10 minutes a day, and it's worth every single second for what he got out of it. And he was independent in 5 weeks. As a 14-month-old, that he was fully clothed, rolling onto his back. And I think every lesson, my jaw dropped at least 5 times a lesson. And that winter, I signed up to become an instructor.
It's amazing. And you fell in love with the cause, because it really is a cause. To me, it's a mission of really ensuring that more and more babies are safe.
Yes, our mission
on
is
Long Island.
Not one more child drowns. So every child that comes through our program, we send them off with skills to potentially save their own life. Hopefully that they'll never need to use. But we want them to know that they would, God forbid they encountered a situation where they're in trouble, they would have that skill and find their air. And we get our texts from our parents, oh, it finally happened. And every time it's still like that me and that baby and that mommy worked on that together, and we did it, and that was what we did.
Yep, and taking Emerson to see you now for however many weeks it was, and I would say about halfway through, we were outside. She and I were standing right by the pool, and I was talking to somebody on the other side. It was just me, that other adult, and her in the backyard. She was 2 feet from me, and the person asked me a question, and I turned my back, and literally we just hear splash, plop, splash. We don't know if she jumped in, if she fell in. We have no idea. But I caught myself, and I said, okay, wait a minute, let me see if she can do this. And she plummeted, I would say like 3 or 4 feet, because she dropped into the water, right? And I'm sitting there, I mean, those nanoseconds as a mom when you're watching this are just like, you're thrown into another stratosphere of like panic. But I held myself and I watched her slowly float up to the surface, and it was amazing. It gave me so much peace of mind. And then I counted for 10 really painful seconds before I grabbed her to just make sure, she could stay there.
I'm sure she was mad.
Comfortably, and she was. So, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because I know for a lot of moms, and I get it, a lot of parents in general, they don't want to do anything with their kids that's going to make them cry or make them uncomfortable. It's painful to watch, and and I totally get it. But I will tell you, if my daughter could make it through these lessons, any child can, because she wasn't scared. She wasn't afraid. She was just mad. I gotta admit, at first, when I saw Emerson in the water, it was a little bit traumatizing. Not so much for her, but for me. Because as a parent, you have this sensory overload of, oh my gosh, my kid is on their own in the water. Nobody's holding them. There's no flotation device. They are learning how to fight for their life for the first time. And if you know my daughter, which many of you do, she is feisty and she does not like going to anyone other than really mom or dad right now. So she put up a little bit of a fight, but it was okay because I knew we were doing the right thing, because we were equipping her with the right skills to be able to save her life should she ever need it. So I totally get it. I know some of you are thinking, I don't know if I can watch my kid go through this. Well, trust me, it's so much better to watch them struggle through this than that 30-second moment where you might have wished you had. I don't think many people realize the harsh statistic of drowning. What is it?
It's the leading cause of accidental death for ages 1 to 4. And these are babies. They're little babies that just learned to walk, and they're curious, and they don't announce that they learned how to open a door. They just do it, or they fit through a doggy door.
They're fearless.
And there's they're learning about their environment. They learn by engaging with their environment, and they get feedback from it. So they learn how to crawl by shifting their weight forward. A couple times they fall on their face. A couple times they start putting their hand out, and they lean on that arm, and look at that, I got somewhere. So then I'm going to try to do it the next arm. So they learn by trial and error. They would learn to manage the water, but there's no air there for them to have any time to figure it out. So what we want them to understand about the water is, how to find the air again. And so a lot of these flotation devices that are marketed as safe learn to swim devices, they're starting younger and younger, because we get a lot of like, oh, I wore water wings when I was little and I learned how to swim, but you were probably 6 or 7. Right. There weren't 18-month-olds being put in water wings, and now they're marketed for these tiny babies, and that baby will learn, if they're taught that put in the water and that they'll stay at the surface, that water will hold me up. Mm-hmm. That's how they engage with the aquatic environment. That's what they're going to base their knowledge on. God forbid they find themselves at the edge of the pool. Whatever their experience has been in the past with that water will dictate what they expect to happen. So yes, some babies may have fell in by accident. They didn't mean to, but if they see something that entices them and they think, we're just going to run right in, or if they've been told over and over again, jump in, he's so brave, look, 1, 2, 3, and look, he'll jump right in, and the float magically brings him back up to the surface, and everyone's clapping, and he's laughing, and he's at the air now.
Yeah. He thinks he'll doing it.
Think that that's him doing it. They're too little to make that distinction. Their judgment, prefrontal cortex isn't developed enough to know that it's the device that keeps them afloat and not the water itself. So that's kind of what we see out there. And again, it's marketed as a learn to swim device, so parents think they're doing the right thing.
I did.
Yeah, people don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do not look at a pool the same way.
Correct.
I don't look at parties the same way.
Parties are never the same.
Yeah, puddle
terrifying.
jumpers the same way. I'm just, I get it now, but I totally didn't get it before.
Right.
I had no idea that the number one cause for accidental deaths in children under the age of 4 was drowning. And when I started to become really essentially a part of this ISR community as I met other moms, I found out that most of the other moms attending these classes had already lost a child. And that shook me. I did not want to become a part of that statistic. So even though when I took my daughter to these classes and she was not happy about me handing her off to a stranger, I want to be really clear, she was not scared of the water. She just didn't want to do this.
We can teach them that early. This is how you manage that water if you ever find yourself in the water. Not that we expect them ever to be, but it does happen, and it is happening, and we're losing children. So we need to teach them early how to find air so that there's never an instance where they find it expecting any differently. They respect the water, they understand it, and like some of them do cry for lessons because I am a stranger, and we get right to work. Sometimes I am able to earn their, giggles and stickers and
trust me, I've seen the other kids that absolutely love you, and I'm like, come on, Amy, she's really nice, the kids before and after us were like always excited to jump in
and it's just
and show
learning
off and
styles
have
are
fun.
different, personalities are different, and I mean I work with them all, and every lesson is catered to that child. There's never like a textbook approach. They're going to teach me where they are that morning, and we're going to work on that, and right where we left off the day before, we pick up right where and so we're always building, because week to week they're going to lose what they thought, so weekly lessons wouldn't build this skill as quickly and as independently and as stable, because it's like riding a bike, that it's a motor plan. So you lose your balance one way, you know how to fix it and stay with your air.
I want to make sure everybody knows that, it was just really funny seeing Emerson go in with you. But I want to make sure everybody knows they're so professional and skilled with what they do that you were always, you're just always conscious of her breath, and just making sure she wasn't in like real distress. Right. We knew she was mad. It was okay.
We manage their submersions. The breath control is always our top priority. So that there's never a time where they would struggle in the water.
That you do, it is actually saving lives, and it just absolutely breaks my heart to hear all of the stories. I've met other parents through the classes who've already lost a child, and now that I've been talking about this a lot, more people are coming forward in my own networking community that are telling me that they've experienced a loved one drowning, and I'm realizing how prevalent this is and how important this is, and that's why I really just wanted to get the message out there so that everybody knows what it is and is aware of it. And so now let's say that these guys want to come to you.
Sure.
What does that look like? What do the classes look like? What's the structure? Let's talk about cost. Kind of break it down for us.
Definitely. There's a national database, infantswim.com, that you can plug your zip code in, you find your closest instructor, and email them and find their next open location, open session. Once you enroll and pick a spot with your instructor, there's an online form you fill out, developmental history, medical history. We need to know if there's any allergies, asthma, kidney conditions, heart conditions. We need to be aware of that every time we take the child in the water. We want to make sure that lesson is the safest lesson for them. It's usually a block of time that you sign up for. So it's 5 days a week, 10 minutes a day. The average amount of time?
10 minutes a day.
10 minutes a day. Because we're
10 minutes a day,
yes.
Okay. What can you do in 10 minutes? I mean, it would take me longer to drive there than the 10 minutes, right? I know what you guys are thinking. So Let's talk about those 10 minutes.
Absolutely. The way we're teaching is motor learning.
Yeah.
And we get maximal motor learning in those first couple of minutes. These babies are small. As soon as they get wet, even though our pools are all heated and it's still cooler than body temperature, they start losing body heat. So we need to maximize when their brains and muscles are ready to learn.
Okay.
And we're monitoring their body temperature the entire time. We've checked Emmy's foot. I press on her heel.
First few times I'm like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
And then I got it.
Because once their bodies are too cold and their bodies pull blood away from their extremities into their core to stay warm, the muscles in their legs and arms aren't learning anything, and we're wasting time and energy and making them madder. So we want to we take that day, we build, and we get right to work and build a motor plan, and we let them out, and we pick right back up where we left off the next day, because their brains, they're developing quick, and if we can just pick up on that pathway right where we left it the next day. And that's how they learn to crawl and they learn to walk. And every day is a little bit of practice, a little bit of practice. Nothing would get done in hours of time or 30-minute amount of time. They would get cold and they're not actually learning anything anymore.
Right.
So that's how this method is so effective and how it builds such a solid, stable motor plan, because we've built it slowly and we've reinforced it every single day. And we teach parents. Sometimes we get you guys in the water to help play and practice and how to pick them up and how to watch for that breath, because that's what we want them to be doing on their back, is breathing. And even if they're crying, they're breathing. And even if they're calling for help, that's a good thing. God forbid an emergency, they're gonna call for help real quick. Mom, I'm on my back, I'm floating, get me, I'm in the pool.
Honestly, I thought about that in moments where, like the day that we brought Emerson in her winter clothes, because you guys you have him come in winter clothes.
Once they're skilled, we practice in clothing.
Full diaper that blows up really big. But that day when she was in the pool with you, and she had, I put her in winter clothes. Like she like the thick pants, the winter boots. I had like the big jacket with the fur. And I remember at first somebody said to me, "Oh, that's gonna help her, right? Because the jacket should make her buoyant."
Right, at first.
Not when it gets filled with water and the diaper too.
Yes.
Think about how heavy those things can get on a child when they're, trying to literally fight for their life. And it was the most amazing thing I think I've ever seen. She was able to, I don't know if your goal is to disorient them, but you do the flip in, right?
Right. We do simulated falls. So at the speed of gravity, we control their entry into the water. So that's why we get a bad name. You're the program that throws the babies in the water. No. We simulate falls with skilled children that we know they know what to do. So it's never part of teaching them. It's once we know they're stable and they know what to do that we would simulate falling in forwards, falling in backwards, falling in disorienting, not know which way is the surface, because we don't want that to challenge them. And the clothes we practice because a lot of accidents happen during non-swim time where the child didn't expect to be in the water, and we don't want the diaper to counteract their weight and change their center of gravity and have them doubt their skills. So we want them to have that experience with us once, done, hopefully you never do it again, kid. Like, go off and be safe. And but the winter clothes, so some parents show up with a sweatshirt and jeans, and some parents are like ready for the tundra.
Going in,
But I think that's also if she can do it in this, I know she's
it's that peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
And I remember watching her. And in that moment, I remember that day in particular, because it was the winter clothes. It was, it couldn't have been more realistic.
Yeah.
And I do remember her crying and yelling, and she would say, "Oh, mommy, mommy," and then she learned how to say things like bottle, milk, and towel, and or she'd look at you and go, "Bye,
yes,
bye,
can we skip this up, please?
See you." But I remember thinking, "Wow, this is so good that she's actually expressing those things and exasperating herself in a sense, because that is real life." Right. If this were to really happen to her, she would be crying, she would be, borderline hyperventilating. Not that she was there, but she would be, because that's real life. She'd be panicked. So it provided me even more security that she was in that moment, that she was still able to sustain her flow.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah, be totally safe. So I'm just so grateful for having the knowledge now, having the awareness, being connected with you. The instructors on Long Island are above and beyond professional. We've been so happy with our experience with you, and I just encourage every single one of you moms out there to look into this. You know, I think the price, when you look at the price, to me, I've heard it's expensive, and I've heard other people say it's not nearly even enough for the cost of like some people say, oh, that, you know, shockingly, it seems like a lot,
shock, yeah.
right? And then other people are like, that's it?
Yeah.
That's it? To
So
save
I
my
think if
child's
you
life,
look
right?
lesson per lesson, the
Yeah.
cost is the same as any swim school around. But again, we're condensing those lessons
Yeah.
to get that skill set in place quick. So we're not looking for perpetual year-long lessons. You come to us, we teach your skill, and you leave.
Yeah.
We want you to come back at least once a year to refresh your skills. But if you look at it like that, if you break down the cost lesson per lesson, it's going to be the same, and your child's going to leave us with a skill.
Right.
So we're not continually asking you to come back every week, come back every month,
Right.
come back, you know, you commit to this time frame, which is exhausting. My husband said there's nothing convenient about ISR. Like you're
Yeah.
every day for that amount of time, you're committing to their routine, to their
Yeah.
diet schedule, to their, you know, you are showing up at the same time every day, and we're getting right to work, and then you go on with your day. But it does break your day in half because it's,
Sure.
you have to commit to that time. But the value of what you get
The value
is what we
Yeah.
instill. There are scholarship programs if there is a financial burden to commit to these lessons, because we don't want that to be a reason someone doesn't pursue
Sure.
lessons.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out to your local instructor about that as well.
The value is absolutely there, and I believe this is so necessary. It's so important. So watch this video, share it with your friends, so we can spread awareness, especially here on Long Island in the New York area. And if they want to get in touch with you,
Yeah, my email address is m.larson@infantswim.com.
we will attach it.
Yep, and Christine is working in Suffolk County,
Okay.
and her email is info@isrnewyork.com.
Cool. And you guys also just produced a pretty compelling video as well that we're going to include in the blog, so you guys can check that out. And you're gonna like tighten your chest and want to lose your breath for a minute, and then you're gonna see how this 18-month-old does and how she is totally okay because of the work these ladies have done. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the work you're doing. So why is this a part of the Customize Your Life community? Well, parenting is a very important and crucial part about customizing your life. If you are a parent, we want to be able to provide you with the right resources so that you have the best shot at bringing your kid up to be an incredible human being on this planet as we know you want to. And I know for me, I've been on the struggle bus many times when it comes to parenting, and I always look for resources of people who've been down the road before me and can bring me those cheat sheets or that expert advice. And that's why we're here talking to you about this today.